Right, so we actually have a new update regarding the 8 passengers situation, and depending on how this goes, this could be a huge update. Because KUTV, which is a local news station that have been covering Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt ever since the arrest in a lot of detail, I would highly recommend checking out their articles if you want to learn more information. They have actually just came out with a new article yesterday that says, Washington Court Attorney requests waiver hearings in Franke Hildebrandt child abuse case. Now, from what I understand, and bear in mind, I'm not a professional here, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, right? So I don't know exactly 100% what I'm talking about when it comes to stuff like this. We are going to watch a video from someone who definitely knows a lot more than I do, but from what I understand, a waiver hearing would be getting both the parties together to see where we're kind of at and maybe potentially actually come to a conclusion, maybe a plea bargain. And as we'll hear later, this may have been done because the prosecutor is worried that there isn't actually a set date on the trial yet and they don't want it to fall through the cracks. Now, of course, this is just a request at the moment. It hasn't been accepted. It doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen, but we do have some potential dates that have been requested, meaning we could hear a conclusion with this situation a lot sooner than we originally anticipated, but it's not 100% certain. According to court filings on Thursday, December 7th, Eric Clark, the Deputy Washington County Attorney, has requested separate hearings for Franke and Hildebrandt. Waiver hearings are scheduled to determine if the two sides can reach a plea bargain. Now, from what I understand, again, this might not be 100%, but if they do actually reach a plea bargain, it means that the sentence may be less than what we originally anticipated, or at least less than what it would if it went to a full trial. Which is why there's a potential that Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt would plead guilty to the charges, because they believe they would get less of a sentence, which hopefully doesn't mean it's a low sentence, of course, right? If a plea bargain can be reached, a preliminary hearing and trial would likely not take place. However, it's also a hearing in which sentencing could take place following a guilty plea. Franke's waiver hearing was requested for December 18th, and Hildebrandt's hearing was requested for December 27th. Both women remain at the Purgatory Correctional Facility in Hurricane on 6 charges of aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony. Now let's actually get to the video that's attached to this article by KUTV. Again, all credit goes to them, so we can hear someone who's a lot more knowledgeable than me.
Today, the Deputy Washington County Attorney requested waiver hearings for later this month. They were requested separately, one intended for Ruby Franke on December 18th, one for Jodi Hildebrandt on December 27th. Waiver hearings can indicate a number of things, including a potential for a plea bargain, or just to get both sides together to speak.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a bit of a key detail right there, is that it doesn't mean that there is going to be a plea bargain that is reached. It could just be to get both sides together to speak about it, because this has been something that's been going on for a while and we still don't have a trial date. I mean, I think at this point they must have been locked up, I believe it was what, right at the end of August, basically September, so October, November, December, 3 months, maybe 4, I can't remember the exact date they got arrested, but it's quite a long time without a trial date actually being set, so maybe they would try and reach a plea bargain, who knows.
A waiver hearing is a procedural hearing set by the court. It's more of a status conference where the court discusses with the defendant and the prosecutor and defense counsel whether or not the defendant wishes to set a preliminary hearing or potentially waive their right to have a preliminary hearing if there's some sort of plea offer.
Right, so yeah, there's multiple things that can happen here. Of course, we don't know exactly how this is going to go. Again, the dates for the waiver hearing are just requested. They're not confirmed either. I think if they do reach a plea bargain and the sentence is less than what it could have been if it went to a full trial, I think there'll be a lot of people who are disappointed, and understandably so. But then on the other side, you've got to think the amount of stress that the family's going to go through, specifically the kids, if this does go to a full trial and it's going on for a crazy amount of time. It's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword. Like, the fact that it could be concluded a lot sooner might be better for the kids in terms of just the stress of going through this situation. But then, of course, I'm sure we all want Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke to have the toughest sentence possible because, I mean, they deserve it. From the disgusting details that we've heard, it's genuinely unbelievable to even think about, right? It's difficult to even fathom that human beings could do some of the stuff that they've done. So I can understand kind of both sides of it, like where your opinion lies on.
These are set as a matter of course. In reviewing the docket, my sort of take on it is that the prosecutor requests that this be set because it was continued without date previously. And I think their concern is if we don't set something, this case is going to fall through the cracks. We need to get it moving.
Okay, so some very key details here. First of all, this doesn't necessarily mean that they've actually spoke about this before, and the reason why the waiver hearing has been requested is because they've spoke about it and they know it'd be accepted. It doesn't mean that they've even spoke about a plea bargain or anything along them lines. But also, as we just heard here, it could be because the prosecutor is worried that it'll fall through the cracks with the fact that it's being continued without a date, which is very understandable, and as we'll also hear in just a second, you've got to remember, we have heard on multiple occasions now that the court has a ridiculous amount of evidence. The prosecutors have a ridiculous amount of evidence. And clearly the last thing they'd want to happen here is for it to fall through the cracks, so to speak.
There was a motion filed for an expedited detention hearing early on in the case. Sounded like they wanted to be able to address those things. And then the continuance was filed on the basis that there was, I think, copious amounts of discovery is the language that was used.
I mean, copious amounts of discovery isn't shocking at all, right? The amount of evidence that YouTubers have found, or like viewers have found, or Reddit pages have found, like there's copious amounts of evidence just from that, stuff you can find online, open for anyone to see. Never mind the stuff that police could find, for example, the amount of stuff that can be found through investigations that maybe we aren't aware of online. So the fact that there is copious amounts of evidence isn't shocking in the slightest. We already know this, right?
They're still entitled to a preliminary hearing. It doesn't look like no pleas have been entered and won't be entered until after that. So I don't anticipate anything new happening unless they request another detention hearing, prior to a preliminary hearing being set.
So yeah, as you just heard there, of course, there is the possibility of a plea bargain. This is something that could potentially happen, but it's also a big possibility that that doesn't happen and nothing really changes. So that's kind of why I said at the beginning of the video, we do have an update, and depending on how it goes, it could be a big update. It might not be either. And I would love to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. I'm sure there's a lot of you guys who know a lot more about this type of stuff than I do. So I would love to hear your opinions, have a bit of a discussion in the comments. And yeah, I mean, I'll say again, this is what I say in all the videos. I just hope that the justice will be served, right? And these two will be punished and they will be locked up and have a tough sentence because they deserve it from the stuff we've heard. It's generally heartbreaking. I'm sure we will hear some updates as to whether this request for the waiver hearing is confirmed or not, because at the minute it's obviously not confirmed, but I'm sure we'll find out if it does get confirmed or not. And then from what happens there, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what the process is after that.
We'll keep you updated on things as we learn them, as we've been doing the whole way. We've been covering the 8 passengers child abuse allegations case for months now.
And that they have. Like I said, I highly recommend checking out KU TV if you do want more updates. They've been covering this story non-stop and have been doing a great job as well. Now, there's actually an 8 passengers Reddit page that posts a bunch of information. It's where I see a lot of the stuff to do with 8 passengers. They're really on top of it all. And there's currently a thread talking about this specific situation right now. And I wanted to go through some of the comments because there's some different opinions here and there. I'm going to blur the names just because I don't know 100% if they'd want to be, like, on a YouTube video, like, identified with the usernames and whatnot. But here's some of the stuff that's been said. It could lead to a plea bargain, meaning if they accept it, they would be pleading guilty, but the punishment will be less severe, though I don't think they can escape jail. I mean, you would like to hope so, right? And I've got a good feeling Ruby and Jodi are not going to take it. Yeah, they seem like the type of people that wouldn't want to take it just because they don't think they've done anything wrong. We've seen by now they are completely delusional. But then also, surely they're being advised that if they don't take this, the punishment is going to be a lot higher, so who knows? I honestly am unsure if they would plead guilty. Those two were so set in their ways when it came to being in distortion. I wonder if they would see taking a deal as being in distortion, because then they would be admitting guilt, and in their minds it's the children's fault, not theirs. I mean, this is something they literally said, right? When Jodi was arrested, she said that the children who have been affected by this shouldn't be around other children, almost blaming them for Ruby and Jodi's own actions. Again, the most delusional people I've ever came across. I'm not even over exaggerating. They would 100% take it, especially if it was a light sentence / punishment. It would make sense as to why Sherry and Bonnie were so upset too. Maybe they were already told about the plea deal. Yeah, this is something I've seen a bit, like Sherry and Bonnie and a few of the family members were posting some like vague posts and whatnot, insinuating that there's something that's happening that they're not too happy about. Again, it's very vague, so this is speculation, just bear that in mind. But then, of course, this has got people thinking, oh, are they already aware of this? Is something actually being planned? Who knows? There are more victims of Jodi than there are of Ruby. Could it be possible that Ruby gets a lesser sentence, or would Jodi get a lesser sentence because she has more money and the backing of church? Now, from what I understand, I've seen a few people saying the same thing in the reply to this comment, but from what I understand, they're both being charged for the exact same thing, right? They've got the same amount of charges, and I don't believe Jodi is currently being charged for any of the other victims. Obviously, that is stuff that a lot of us will feel like Jodi should be punished for, right? There's a lot of victims of Jodi Hildebrandt over the last decade, even longer. We've spoke about a lot of them on our channel, of Adam Paul Steed, for example. Even Jessie Hildebrandt, who is Jodi Hildebrandt's niece. That's just to name a few, there's way more, so you would like to think that potentially something could happen there, but at this moment in time, I don't think that's the case. But one key detail that I need to stress again is that this doesn't mean that a plea bargain is going to happen. And again, this also isn't very uncommon with cases like this. So it may very well still go to full trial. We don't know yet. I'm sure we'll hear updates very soon, and as soon as we do, I'll obviously let you guys know. But again, I would love to know your opinions in the comment section down below on everything that we spoke about in today's video. And yeah, I'm going to leave video there. So if you're new here and you want to subscribe, that'd be lovely. And until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, goodbye.